Welcome to worship in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte.
It's true. When our ancestors spoke of heaven, they were speaking of this moment.
When they went on about nirvana, they imagined a time like this.
When they sang of paradise, it was this morning they imagined.
A time when all the mysteries of life and death are blended in a community of praise.
When the bones of ancient lovers are given flesh again in our own bodies.
Teachers of long ago, speaking of love and truth, once more in lives so ordinary, they are extraordinary.
Blessed is our breath, in and out, quiet.
Blessed is our sitting, our fidgeting, our movement.
Blessed is our heartbeat echoing.
The pounding alleluias of distant stars.
Blessed is the silence that is presence,
not absence. As we prepare to sing, please greet those around you warmly.
Let there be light, let us be the light.
Lord,
Our first reading is by the contemporary U.S. poet Marie Howe. First word in the poem is the name Johnny. We'll learn more about Johnny momentarily. What the living do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there, and the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes have piled up, waiting for the plumber. I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky's a deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here, and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again. And again later, when buying a hairbrush, this is it. Parking, slamming the door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning. What you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and more and then more of it. But there are moments, walking, when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep. For my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you. Starfish by Elaine Lerman. This is what life does. It lets you walk up to the store to buy breakfast and the paper on a stiff knee. It lets you choose the way you have your eggs, your coffee. Then it sits a fisherman down beside you at the counter who says, "Last night, the channel was full of starfish." And you wonder, is this a message? Finally? or just another day. Life lets you take the dog for a walk down to the pond where the whole generations of biological processes are boiling beneath the mud. Reeds speak to you of the natural world. They whisper, they sing, and herons pass by. Are you old enough to appreciate the moment? Too old? There's movement beneath the water, but it may be nothing. There may be nothing going on. And then life suggests that you remember the years you ran around, the years you developed a shocking lifestyle, advocated careless abandon, owned a chilly heart. Upon reflection, you're genuinely surprised to find how quiet you have become. And then life lets you go home to think about all this, which you do for quite a long time. Later, you wake up beside your old love, the one who never had any conditions, the one who waited you out. This is life's way of letting you know that you are lucky. It won't give you smart or brave, so you'll have to settle for lucky. Because you were born at a good time, because you were able to listen when people spoke to you, because you stopped when you should have, and started again. So life lets you have a sandwich and pie for your late night dessert. Pie for the dog as well. And then life sends you back to bed, to dreamland, while outside the starfish drift through the channel with smiles on their starry faces as they head out to deep water, to the far and boundless sea. You won't believe what I found. Beverly, my slightly older sister, was excited to share an unexpected discovery. Last spring, without warning, our dad had announced that our mom's decline necessitated immediately vacating the large home they'd owned for decades and moved quickly to a retirement community with an available memory care unit for the near future. Having assisted with the expedited move, Beverly and I then took on the task of sorting through the accumulation of their lifetimes to prepare our childhood home to be sold. And it was after I'd left one evening for the weary drive back to Charlotte that Beverly had made her discovery. Buried deep on a shelf in an overstuffed closet was our grandmother's large sewing bag. Inside were dozens and dozens of letters, correspondence between our maternal grandparents. Alma Louise Manuel followed her older sister Fanny from their farmhouse in rural Allendale County, South Carolina, to Greenville Women's College, GWC, in the mid-1920s. Claude Sawyer Fox loaded the large trunk now in our bedroom in his farmhouse in rural Aiken County, South Carolina, and took the train to Greenville, where he became a student at Furman University at the same time. They met in a church procession. Women from GWC lined up on one side, men from Furman on the other, and the two of them seemingly fated to enter side by side. A romance ensued, then blossomed. But before she could complete her studies, my grandmother became quite ill, returned home, dropped out of college, and once recovered, took a job as a school teacher. For the next several years, they were apart, committed to writing one another every week. What Beverly had discovered in that back closet was the result. Letter after letter after letter after letter, a treasure trove of immeasurable worth. We agreed to divide the letters, read them, then exchange our respective stack for the others. So, on an evening last summer, I plunged in. Here were two people so absolutely central to my life, but who I was now going to get to know for the very first time as young, college-aged kids in love. What did they do? What filled their days, their nights, their thoughts? What were their lives really like? Miss Alma Manuel, Ulmer, South Carolina, Furman, Thursday night. Dearest Alma, I appreciated your letter if it was a little later than I expected it. I am being rushed to death these days. I have a test tomorrow and the next day, neither of which I know much about. Lack of inspiration, I guess, is the trouble. Ha. I got out of the infirmary Saturday in time for the game, though I was too weak to do much yelling. I was learning to like the infirmary pretty good before I left it. We had such a jolly bunch of fellows down there that we had a right good time. Didn't have to worry about studying or anything else. We have a BYPU social on schedule for next Saturday at GWC. I wish you could be among the bunch. I know I should enjoy the occasion if that could be so. The same, Claude. Mr. Claude Fox, Furman University, Greenville, SC, Sunday night. Dearest Claude, I could talk you a blue streak tonight. For there isn't anything wrong with my voice, and I'm so lonesome. It's been such a long day, and of course, when I wanted someone to come, they wouldn't. I went to Sunday school and to ride, but the roads were so bad, it was very disagreeable. We surely did have rain the last few days. It rained Friday and Saturday, almost without ceasing. By the way, I missed my party Friday night on account of the rain. Too bad. Hey. Guess you noticed that Lindbergh has at last made his decision and has his engagement announced. I was utterly shocked, for I didn't think he wanted to get married. My hopes for him have all vanished now. Ha. Claude, please excuse this short note, but my eyes are gradually falling shut. You can easily understand why I have made so many mistakes. Your same old girl, always, Alma. In her simple little poem, The Moment, Marie Howe writes, "Oh, the coming out of nowhere moment when nothing happens. No, what have I to do today list? Maybe half a moment. The rush of traffic stops, the whir of I should be, I should be, I should be, slows to silence. The white cotton curtains hanging still. As it turns out, at least if Alma and Claude's correspondence is to be believed, such moments aren't all that rare. Accounting for their days apart, filling in the gaps for one another, what actually happens is often nothing. Well, of course, not really nothing, just nothing extraordinary, out of the ordinary. They watch the rain, go to Sunday school and on rides, get sick, get well, go to football games, socials, take in the news of far-removed celebrities. Miss Alma Manuel, Olmers, South Carolina, Furman, Thursday night. Dearest Alma, I went over to Earl Street Church for the first time last Sunday morning. The revival meeting began there at that time. On our way home from church, we had a few unusual experiences. Owing to the very long-winded preacher over there now, we were about to be too late for dinner. Two girls in a little new Ford Roadster came to our rescue about that time and asked to bring us over to the campus. Of course, we were too well-reared to refuse. There were 5 of us on the little car, and Herring was sitting on the fender. Just as we were coming into a certain street, the girl driving the car ran into a lady in another car. No serious damage was done, just bent up the other lady's fender pretty badly. Herring got a light lick, but not enough to injure him in any way. I guess the girl who was driving got excited. Alma, dear, Greenville is different with me from what it was when you were here. I go over to GWC but fail to find you there. I go over to First Church, but your presence is never there. I never see you on the streets of the city. I went to Earl Street Church and I couldn't even find you there. There's no way for me to see you. What shall I do? I'm always glad to hear from you. Fondly yours, Claude. Mr. Claude Fox, Furman University, Greenville, SC, Sunday p.m. at home. Dearest Claude. Probably you have wondered why I haven't written you before now, but when I explain, you will readily forgive me, I'm sure. I have thought of you just lots, even though it did not reach you in writing. We have almost had a hospital here since last Monday. Papa was taken with the flu Thursday and has been right sick ever since. Then to beat it all, Fanny took it yesterday. So that put me with nearly all the work to do, for you see, Mama was sick the first of the week. I'll not say that I didn't have time to write you, for I did, but my mind wasn't on writing. Understand? It rained all day yesterday and last night, and then this AM, it was almost freezing cold. My best girlfriend stayed with me last night and this morning, so we passed away the time well. Of course, she had a date this afternoon and had to leave me, so that's why I'm lonesome. I wonder if I would ever get that way if you were nearer. Maybe you are getting weary from reading this note. I'll save some for next time. The same old girl, Alma. It's what the living do. Familiar gesture after familiar gesture. The everyday we spoke of, writes Marie Howe, with clogged sinks and grocery shopping and spilling coffee and buying a hairbrush and parking and slamming the car door. What the living do. Attend church with long-winded preachers. Some things never seem to change. Ride in cars, have minor accidents, feel longing and love. Tend to sick family members, do household chores, comment on the weather, have time with friends, feel lonesome and love. The Johnny who begins Marie Howe's poem, What the Living Do, was her younger brother, the one she writes about in that collection as he lives through the last days of a life cut short by HIV/AIDS. I got to be with John the last 6 weeks or so, she explained in an interview, and those hours getting to be with him and just hanging out were such a joy. Just being there with him and Joe, his partner. And people would come and go, and the shade would flop against the window, and Johnny would sleep and wake and sleep and wake. And we would tell each other stories. We would tell stories forever. And just to be, being present. In the gate, she attests, I had no idea that the gate I would step through to finally enter the world would be the space my brother's body made. He was a little taller than me, a young man, but grown himself by then, done at 28. Having folded every sheet, rinsed every glass he would ever rinse under the cold and running water. This is what you have been waiting for, he used to say to me. And I'd say, what? And he'd say, this, holding up my cheese and mustard sandwich. And I'd say, what? And he'd say, this, sort of looking around. It is when we stop and think about it. So much of what living is about, folding sheets and rinsing glasses and making and sharing sandwiches. Oh, the hype would tell us otherwise. Isn't that what we just watched again? That life is about getting wildly, ecstatically excited about. Do you even remember just 1 week later? Mobile wireless plans, Peanuts, Games of Thrones, car purchasing plans, microwavable frozen food, Goo Google, Microsoft, Amazon, T-Mobile. I'm getting a little kickback for sermonic product placement here. And of course, beer. With or without corn syrup. What then are we to do with lives that instead often entail less ecstasy and more loading and emptying the dishwasher? Waiting in carpool lines or at bus stops or in doctors' offices or for oil changes, filling out forms, stopping to pick up coffee filters, deodorant, and detergent, getting haircuts. Or not. Rushing through our days, these ordinary days, as if there is some other destination, some other kind of days toward which we are pressing. Hurry, writes Marie Howe. We stop at the dry cleaners and the grocery store and the gas station and the green market and hurry up, honey, I say, hurry. As she runs along 2 or 3 steps behind me, her blue jacket unzipped and her socks down. Where do I want her to hurry to? To her grave? To mine? Where one day she might stand all grown? Today, when all the errands are finally done, I say to her, honey, I'm sorry I keep saying hurry. You walk on ahead of me. You be the mother. And hurry up, she says over her shoulder, looking back at me, laughing. Hurry up now, darling, she says. Hurry, hurry, taking the house keys from my hand. Miss Alma Manuel, Ulmer, South Carolina, Furman, Sunday p.m. Dearest Alma, the purple hurricane upset the dope bucket and defeated Duke by a nice little margin. The game was full of thrills for me. In fact, it was the best game I've seen since last year when we played Clemson. Ha. Don't forget that I'm the same old boy. Thinking of the dear one and looking forward to hear from her. Lovingly, Claude. Mr. C.S. Fox, Taylor's SC, Thursday p.m. Dearest Claude. I've just finished correcting a set of exams, and much to my joy and surprise, everyone passed. It seems that I'd put across more than I'd thought. One little fellow began writing at 8:30 o'clock and didn't finish until 2:30. Now, what do you think of that? Lewis carried the 3 of us to the show last night. The picture was right good, but it wasn't what we expected to see. Dear, it would be more than a pleasure to join you on the house party, and I know you all will have a marvelous time. Be a good little boy. And don't forget me. Yours always, Alma. And so it was. What they did. And so it is. What we do. So often. So ordinary. Toward the end of Nikos Kazantzakis' marvelous novel, The Last Temptation of Christ, an angel confronts and corrects Jesus, who is still speaking of cosmic concepts like eternity. The angel laughed. What is eternity? Haven't you been able to get rid of the big words? Here is eternity. Each moment, Jesus of Nazareth, each moment that passes. Moments aren't enough for you. If so, you must learn that eternity will not be either.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Sample, and I've been a member here for about 10 years. I'm grateful to be here and share this morning with you. It wasn't until the planning meeting for this service that I fully understood I was being asked to participate in a service about the unremarkable, the ordinary, the everyday aspects of our lives, and, oh, can you contribute some of your most unimpressive artwork? I'm not sure now whether it was actually a compliment to be asked, but I guess the pressure's off. To me, this service topic is all about the in-between. Throughout our lives, we have intense, memorable experiences, moments of celebration and heartache, but there's a whole lot of living that takes place in between. We tend to mark our lives with births, deaths, personal accomplishments, major struggles. But what about the amount of time we all spend simply talking with each other, preparing meals, doing the dishes, and sorting all those socks and underwear? These simple parts of our everyday lives might individually be unremarkable, but it's the collection of these experiences that equally define our lives. When we look at our successful long-term relationships, whether life partners or friendships, their lasting power is fueled by the consistent, ordinary presence in our life, rather than just the passion or grand adventures that may have started them. We learn to appreciate that chatting over coffee in a living room is equally important as a perfectly Instagrammable vacation. And too often, it's only in the absence that the value of these ordinary interactions are realized. On occasion, my family's everyday includes art supplies set out for whoever wanders by and wants to mess around a little bit. On other days, my family might take our very old dog on a very slow walk, or enjoy the latest Netflix show coupled with a pretty ordinary frozen pizza. A year from now, we won't remember the details of these days, but hopefully, we will remember that we spent them together, and that's perfectly fine with me.
It's your mom. Welcome. We're happy you're with us today in this room or joining us remotely. We're pleased to have guests with us. Our members would like to greet you personally following the service. So if you are visiting, please raise your hand and keep it up. Members, take note of guests seated throughout the sanctuary. After the service, invite them to join you for coffee and conversation in Freeman Hall. Should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find both a large print order of service and a personal hearing assistance device on the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. Also, an elevator is located to the left of the entrance. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card and place it in an offering basket later in the service. Members with a life event to share can do so on the reverse side of the card. The cards and offering envelopes are on clipboards at the end of your row. Please begin passing them down now. Visitors interested in hearing about how to become a member can speak with our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. Her contact information is on the back of your order. And again, to each of you, welcome. There's so many ways to be involved in the robust life of this congregation. We invite you to step over into Freeman Hall to our adult programming table and to other areas in that room where you can find out much more about what is going on here. Our mission explicitly calls us to nurture caring community. We gather each week to center ourselves on care and concern for fellow members in this congregation, and to hope that that sense of care and compassion ripples out from here to our family, to our friends, to the larger community, to the nation and a world so troubled by injustice, inequity, and oppression. Today marks some special occasion of joy, of celebration, of remembering, of concern, of grief for you. You're invited to come forward later in the service when the baskets are being passed and music is being played, visitor, member alike, and light a single candle, holding, please, the silence in the room as you do so. Please join me for meditation and aspiration. This is the day, sings that Hebrew psalmist, the one fashioned in the fullness of the sacred. This one, every bit as holy as any other day. In which case, well, let us rejoice and be glad in it, on it. On this very day, the one day when we are all alive together, finding our ways in lives fraught with fear and filled with such heart-lifting beauty, replete with burdens far too heavy to carry without doing some permanent damage, and buoyant, so very buoyant with bursts of a kind of bounty that it just may feel like we've bitten into a luscious orange with our whole being, heart, mind, and soul, dripping with the sweet juice of goodness. Today the sun will shine unsummoned, will rise and set in splendor that most will never even pause to see. Rain will fall unbidden, replenishing, renewing, reviving, though many will regard it as but a nuisance. This is the day on which some will suffer in ways they've suffered on days before. A long, unraveling thread of pain or confusion, slowly, slowly coming undone. And some will suffer unexpected shocks, the pain of accidents, poor choices, hidden distress bubbling up to the surface, then spewing forth like a geyser. This is the day on which some will celebrate a long-awaited occasion, a completely unexpected dose of good fortune, the astoundingly good news of another chance, a new love, a renewed love, some new possibility, the flicker of hope reborn. This is a day most of us will not remember in great detail weeks, months, certainly years from now. And for that, we are surprisingly grateful, holding its ordinariness with tender thanks, appreciative that this is what we, the living, do. Blessed be.
Every week, we take up an offering. It's good to remind ourselves that it's as symbolic as well as practical. Together, we fund our worship, religious education, and programming, pay our staff, and finance the comfort and beauty of our building. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on a Sunday morning. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. Please join me in an affirmation of our faith, rising in body and/or spirit. Look to this day.
Oh, yeah. Please be seated.